Greetings, it is I, Ryuji Dread. How are all of you doing today, Dread Knights? This is going to be a shock for a lot of people, but look what I'm playing. It has been, I even forgot, maybe 2 years since the last time I played Diablo III. We're going to be playing Diablo III Eternal Collection on the Nintendo Switch, so this is the Nintendo Switch version of Diablo III. A lot of people, probably, if you're OGs of this channel, will remember that I got pretty much by mid-break by playing Diablo 3 on this channel. I used to make a lot of Diablo 3 guides based on every set armor for each season. I think I started doing this stuff way back in season 22, right when the pandemic started. Then I pretty much made through all the guides and they stopped updating Diablo 3. There was nothing else really I could talk about. So for today, I'm just going to be grinding my armor set here that I have, which is the Rasha armor set. I'm basically playing the Meteor build. I'm not going to really go over this because if you look in the video description, I have linked you to the guide where I actually go into great detail as to how to play Meteor or Rasha armor set. So I'm not going to go over that. I'm going to be grinding. Going to be doing some Nephilim rifts. We're going to be then doing some greater rifts. I'm going to be doing some very difficult greater rifts today. I have my greater rifts maxed out at 150 because I've just played a shit ton of Diablo 3 over the years. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm probably going to be doing Greater Rift 110 because I'm not going to be playing with other people for this. And on top of that, one of the things is this armor is not fully optimized yet to be able to really tackle Greater Rift 150 with general ease. I still have to level up the gems, and there's still a couple other things that have to be like perfectly augmented. I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to Diablo 3 builds, so for me, I want everything to be basically primordial, ancient legendary rarity, which means the red border things that you will see in certain armor pieces. So I want like primordial ancient legendaries before, so that because they have perfect rolls. Other things that I really like is like just having perfected builds with like the right amount of crit hit damage that I need and crit hit ratios and stuff of that nature. So for people who are not familiar with Rasha or Meteor build, it's basically all you're doing is going to cast black holes and then cast a whole bunch of meteors. We use the Frostcliff because the ice meteors are probably some of the best meteor effects that you can get in the game because it freezes a lot of enemies, and on top of that, because of some of the pieces of gear that we have, we're able to pull in smaller enemies into the meteor like a vacuum, and basically you just kind of dump all your mana or all your energy. I forgot what they exactly call it for the wizard, because it's not sorcerer in this game, which I think was kind of really messed up of Diablo 3 not to call the sorceress and sorcerer actually their name. Instead they call them the wizard, which I never really cared for that name for. It was a kind of a weird recon, but so basically just casting a whole bunch of meteors, teleporting around. Every so often we'll cast a familiar, every so often we'll cast a ice blade, because we have to get the damage rotations going, and that's pretty much what you're going to be seeing me doing in terms of these damage rotations as I continue to play. So, Dread Knights, how is everybody doing today? I have some good news, actually, if anybody is interested in hearing it. I got my IRL Twitter back. The lovely folks at X/Twitter looked over my appeal request. As I mentioned before, that can have been suspended. It had been falsely targeted, mass targeted by people who wanted to make fake claims. So they basically said that I had like ingenuous post up on my IRL Twitter page, which is far from the case because it's not like I have any AI type of post or anything of that nature. So Twitter looked into the situation. They were able to confirm that it was indeed a case of fake mass reporting done. I actually know who did it. I'm not going to actually say who did it. I know it was a good attempt. You know, I wish people wouldn't be so petty, but, you know, that's kind of how it goes sometimes in this type of space. But overall, Twitter figured it was a bogus claim. They overturned it. I know who did it. It's pretty much over and done with. I'm not really using too much the Twitter account at the moment because if people are not familiar, when you get a bogus Twitter suspension, despite the fact that you get a bogus Twitter suspension, you're basically put on probation for a couple days or even like a week or two. So right now, even if I were to make Twitter posts, it wouldn't show up in any search suggestion. So I'm kind of like slowly going from my Twitter page to kind of look to see exactly what was flagged and try to take it out. You know, it was a fake flag anyway. And I've kind of got most of that content that was allegedly bogus fake claim out just, you know, to cover my bases, and I probably won't be posting too much on there for a couple days at the very least. So, but that's basically what's going on. Thank you to everybody that reached out with that. I was very happy at the fact that Twitter staff looked at it very quickly, the appeal, because I know there's a lot of other people who've had appeals on Twitter that have never gone, or X as it's called now, that have gone completely unnoticed. You know, I've heard stories of people who were ignored for 4 or 5 months. They probably did something super serious. In my particular case, I didn't do anything wrong. I just got bogus reported by some people that wanted to be malicious, which was kind of messed up. I talked about it before, but hopefully everything kind of got resorted. So my energy level is a little bit higher these days because of that. So that was the news I wanted to share with you. Also, I know a lot of people were asking why I was supposed to play League of Legends today, right? I still plan to play League of Legends. I'm gonna try to see, question mark, if I'm able to fit in an extra recording this week. Because normally, right now as it stands, I'm mostly doing, like, recordings 3 times a week. You know, whenever I can release content, I try to release content, because obviously, still kind of having some issues. Ooh, goblin. You know what I would wish these goblins would drop? There's one set of very rare wings that I have never been able to get, that you get from, like, the goblin portal from going to the Rainbow World. I forgot what it's called, Hazy Town or something like that, where you, like, kill a whole bunch of unicorns and stuffed teddy bears. So, I've never been able to really get that thing yet. I've tried grinding it, I've tried farming it. It's like one of the rarest drops in Diablo III. It's bragging rights for, like, the wings. But I've never, ever been able to get it. So I'm going to try to see if I can fit in the League of Legends stream still, regardless, this week. Because we do have still Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which is planned for, looking at my schedule, it is planned on Saturday morning. So I don't really want to put League of Legends on a Saturday morning because I don't suspect it would do too well, question mark. So what the plan is going to be is I'm going to try to see if I can fit it in before Saturday, or I'll try to do it, like, on a Sunday stream, if I can. If I can't, then that's, like, we'll just push it back to the beginning of next week. I do still really want to play League of Legends, because I am very interested. Ooh, the Swami. I actually needed this for a build a very long time ago, but I don't need it anymore. So we're just going to kind of get rid of it. So, as you can see, I'm not using the Tower Rasha headpiece. I'm actually using Mempho of Twilight. Ideally, during these runs, what I would love to do is get an Ancient Legendary Mempho helmet. Ancient Legendary, for those of you who aren't familiar with that terminology, basically means, as you see here, that gear that I have on, not that one, but if you notice some of the green gear that I have has like a gold border around it, that's what Ancient Legendary is. If it has a red border around it, see, that's an Ancient Legendary right there, the Tower Rasha Stride. So what I'm looking for is basically things with gold borders, and I'm also looking for things with red borders. Red border gear, it drops randomly, even though you can put a piece of gear in with an ice cube, but it's very hard to get primal legendaries. It's like a 2% drop. You have to run a whole bunch of greater rifts in order to be able to accomplish that. But the red border in particular is like what ideally you want to go for every piece of gear, because that gives you perfect rolls on every bit of stats. Now, I know a lot of people are probably asking, Dread, why are you playing Diablo 3 when Diablo 4 exists? That is a great question, Dread Knights. Honestly, I'm just not a big fan of Diablo 4. I've said this for many months on this channel. I had Diablo 4, I have the base game, I played through the base game, I maxed out every class to level 100, I played through the first 5 seasons of Diablo 4 for the seasonal characters, remade characters. The game is just really boring. There's no other way to put it. The loot was very uninteresting in the beginning, then they made the loot a little bit more interesting, and then they kind of, like, it took forever to grind a seasonal character, and they locked a lot of the leveling behind the battle pass system, which I was never very keen on with it, because, you know what, they're trying to make you pay for microtransactions in a game you already pay for. I don't mind DLC stuff, but I don't like microtransactions in retail release games, because it just never necessarily sets well with me. So a lot of what happened with Diablo 4 for me was, like, you're tying leveling up to the battle pass. So I have to unlock stuff in the battle pass to be able to actually progress and level up my seasonal character. And it got to the point where I just wasn't interested in doing any content. Like, no matter what they added to Diablo 4 in terms of new mechanics for endgame, it just didn't really do anything for me. Like, they even tried to make Diablo 4 like Diablo 3, but the biggest issue with it is just, like, the gear grind for it, too. So, like, and on top of that, I always felt like they're just dangling a carrot in front of you, and you're on, like, a hamster wheel, and you're just running around in circles, and nothing that you're really doing to make yourself powerful ever really feels like you're actually powerful. Like, a big problem that I had with Diablo 4, and I said this a very long time ago, and some people argued about it, and some people said I was wrong, some people said I was right, is I didn't like the level scaling. I feel like if you're playing an action RPG, your character, once it gets maxed out, once it gets, like, the perfect gear, should be hitting like a Mack truck. It shouldn't be like you stop feeling that sense of being powerful. And a lot of Diablo 4, for me, I just lost the sense of feeling powerful in everything that I was doing. I didn't feel like I was getting more powerful as I was leveling up. I felt like the enemies were getting stronger. I felt like there was a lot of synthetic difficulty with some of the enemies. The pit, which was supposed to be like the greater of runs, I just didn't find it interesting. Everything that they tried to do just didn't really pull me in. And then the expansion came out, right? And with the expansion, I thought about getting it before I started running into a lot of laptop issues, right? But what really kind of always put me on the fence with the expansion was the fact that, like, a lot of the content of Diablo 4 that they were offering in that expansion was stuff that you had to do with multiplayer people. So, like, the dungeons in particular, you had to pair up with people to do it. Now, I'm not, like, antisocial in my action RPG games, but since the dawn of time, whenever I was playing Diablo 2 back in the day, and Diablo 2 Resurrected, and even Diablo 3, I was always given the option to be able to play these games fully by myself with so that I could just kind of immerse myself in the world, that I am the Wanderer. In Diablo 3's case, I am the Nephilim, and I am the strongest character in this world that is going to be able to slay all these demons by themselves, no problem. And when you take away that sense of immersion, that single-player experience for me, in a action RPG, not an MMO, a dungeon crawler, as it's pretty much considered, I don't really enjoy those type of mechanics. I don't mind teaming up with people every once in a while, but sometimes I just want to go in and grind solo and be able to clear content solo. What I always loved about Diablo 3 is I started really playing it heavily in the pandemic, right? So I would play Diablo 3 in the pandemic because everybody was pretty much on lockdown, and I would grind for hours and hours and hours and it was kind of a nice kind of comfort game for me, right? Because I could just jump in and get enamored with the lore, and I could just, perfect builds, and I could try out different options. A lot of that stuff isn't really in Diablo 3, or excuse me, Diablo 4. In Diablo 4, there's no, like, loadout thing, so if you want to, like, change up your character build, you have to not only swap out all this gear that you're not going to have a lot of space for, but on top of that, you have to change your whole Paragon board, which becomes a big headache to do, because you have to, like, completely delete every node, and then reset the nodes and everything. It just becomes too much of a chore that you get kind of locked into one particular build for a class, and then you can't really experiment unless you want to, like, spend hours and hours and hours on hours grinding for different pieces of gear that are going to be perfect, or then having to mess around with the Paragon board way too much to the point where it just isn't really worth the time of day. And the other thing was the gear in Diablo 4 wasn't very interesting to loot for a while, and then they did some upgrades to make it so that you got more rare cool loot drops, and that was fine. And then when the expansion came along, they changed things up completely again, which made it harder to get the loot again. So it's just like, well, okay, like, when it comes to my action RPGs and dungeon crawlers, when I play them, I like to have my time respected in them, right? So I like to be able to jump in, grind for 2 hours, get a couple levels of Paragon, get a couple rare pieces of gear I need, be able to re-roll pieces of gear that I need to get something better, try out builds, try out different things, rotate around. And Diablo 4 is really not that experience. You're locked into something, and then you can never really change it. And on top of that, it always felt like a chore. And then, like, I felt like it's a big smack in the face, I'll be honest with a lot of people here, that Diablo 4, for the people who are level 100, then in the expansion, made it so that they're level 50. So then, if you don't buy the expansion, case in point me, I just wanted to play more Diablo 4 again, the only alternative was that you would have to spend a very long time grinding for the base game content, to then find out that's going to take super long time to get those 10 levels, but if you pay for the pay-for content, you are going to be able to get those 10 levels fast because you go through the story and it breezes through there. So you know what, you're forcing a $40 expansion on me that normally I would have been fine with if it had enough content in it, but you're forcing $40 expansion on me, and then I'm not even getting a good return investment because I've looked at the expansion, I watched some of the story of it. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't played through it. And it's like, well, I'm getting 6 hours worth of content and a new map and a new class, and that's about it. And it wasn't really worth the time. Maybe when they make, like, the next expansion a couple of years from now, and that'll probably be the end of Diablo 4, hopefully, because I feel like they need to move on to a different game plan. That'll be something. The other issue, too, that I have with Diablo 4 is Diablo is not in the game still. Like, and it seems like Diablo is never going to be in this game because of the way the storyline's been going through just even the base game. It looks like the big baddie in this one is just Mephisto. And, you know, for me, it's always been like, well, what's the point of a Diablo game if Diablo's not in the game? Like, even in Diablo Immortal, Diablo wasn't in the game for a very long time and then finally comes out. Another issue that I've always had with Diablo 4 in particular is that it's not a true traditional dungeon crawler, right? Again, it's not that I'm anti-social in my video games. I don't mind questing with people, and I don't mind hanging with people and doing dungeon runs with people, but a lot of what makes me happy in Diablo games is being able to explore the map on my own. And there's no option for that. So, like, I would be doing, like, boss runs by myself, where I would be doing subquests by myself, where I would be doing, you know, the area, I even forget the name, Helltides. I would be doing Helltides by myself, and then out of nowhere, this Joe Schmo that I didn't invite to do anything with me just comes out of nowhere and starts, like, giga-chatting all over the place and destroying stuff that I was working to, and it just kills my sense of immersion. When I'm in a Helltide, you know what, and then somebody just shows up and starts killing a whole bunch of things. Also, like, for me particularly when I was playing Diablo 4, a lot of the times when somebody randomly shows up in the middle of my map, it would cause my game to, like, stutter crazily and freeze up, which would then sometimes, not often, but sometimes it would have my character get killed during the Helltide, and I would lose a whole bunch of the cinders that you have to collect during the Helltide. So it just got to the point where it really pisses me off, and there was no option ever to turn it off, so that if maybe I just wanted to explore the world by myself, I could do that. You know what? I'm fine if I'm playing an MMO game where I know that that's going to happen, like Lost Ark in particular, which I don't even know if anybody still plays Lost Ark, but if I'm playing Lost Ark, or if I'm playing, like, oh, what's another game? Phantasy Star Online, the original one, or Phantasy Star Online 2, or if I'm playing World of Warcraft, not that I play World of Warcraft, and people come in and then start helping in areas, I'm fine with that, because I know I'm playing an MMO. When I'm playing an action RPG, I don't want that type of experience. So the big problem that I had with Diablo 4 is that it tries to be like MMO light game when I just want a dungeon crawler. I just want to be able to go in and dungeon crawl for a while and chill and vibe, and then, you know what, rinse, recycle, repeat, whatever I want to do. And it's just, it's not in that game at all, that type of experience. Everything just forces you into an MMO like experience, and it got to the point where I'm just like, I don't like Diablo 4. I don't. I just really don't. I don't. And it's not a dig on the devs, because I know they've tried to do things to make the game better, but it's just like, it's not interesting. It's not entertaining. Like, I can come into Diablo 3 and I can drop all these guys to get stuff, and I can every once in a while run into a piece of gear that I actually need, or I can try to reroll for gear, and I could jump in and do stuff for 2 hours, and I feel like my time is being respected, as opposed to Diablo 4, where everything's just been in this really weird drip-free state, where, you know what, they give you a little bit of something, and then they do other things. Like, also with Diablo 4, which kind of confused the heck out of me, with the expansion in particular, is the fact that they introduced the rune words again, right? But it's not like the rune words that you'll know and love from the original Diablo 2, right? No. These are rune words that are, like, very poor man's rune words that were just used to kind of sell the expansion. They don't do anything to really truly enhance your builds the way that, like, Diablo 2 did. Like, when you got an insight in Diablo 2, that really mattered. When you had a smoke, that kind of really mattered. When you had Chains of Honor, that type of things, Mosaic, which was one of the last things they introduced in Diablo 2 Resurrected, those rune words, when you got them, when you got your Mals and your Burrs and your Ist, it really made a difference here, as opposed to adding a little bit of extra oomph to pieces of gear that you're always going to constantly be swapping out anyway, in Diablo 4. So, like, a lot of the stuff just, like, you introduce rune words to try to get people from Diablo 2 interested, but you don't introduce rune words significantly. And then when they introduce rune words, and then when they introduce new pieces of gear, it's like 1 or 2 new pieces of gear, 1 or 2 new rune words, 1 or 2 new pieces of this, 1 or 2 new little game mechanics here. Everything's on a drip feed, and it gets to the point where I don't want, like, 1 or 2 little things per season spread out throughout the lifespan of a game. I want, like, significant content updates. Like, you know what, I expect per season to see at least 25 to, if not 40, uniques added to a game. Because then if you're adding more uniques to the game, because we don't have set armors in Diablo 4, that would give you a lot of cool chase items too. But you'll get, like, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of them. No, you need a whole bunch of them. I don't understand why dev time doesn't get focused on that type of stuff, and instead, like, apparently it takes very long for them to create these seasons with these seasonal mechanics, when in reality, I think everybody would be fine with the game the way it is if you just added more uniques, added more gear, added more things that actually made you feel powerful, made you feel like your time that you're putting into Diablo 4 actually was worth it. You know? It's just, I know it's a crazy concept, but, like, everything that you would love. Are those boots? I have to go check those boots to see if they're better than the Rasha boots that I have already. I'm gonna check in a second. Oh, those are Veer's boots. Okay, so we're gonna check those Veer's boots. I thought they were Rasha boots. Because I do have Veer. I'm not gonna be using Veer on stream today. I'm only sticking with this one particular wizard build. I was gonna call him Sorcerer. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he should have been called Sorcerer. Fun fact about Diablo III, the voice actor for the wizard is Cam Clark. If anybody knows who Cam Clark is, let me know in chat right now. If you don't know, Cam Clark is a famous voice actor, has done so many different accolades, not only for video games, but anime. Even though some people argue this, anybody familiar with the bastardized version of Super Dimensional Fortress Macross and Genesis Climber Mosapedia and Super Dimensional Cavalry Sovereign Cross that basically became Robotech in America? They butchered that stuff up. Well, Cam Clark played the English dubbed version of Maximilian Genius in the original Robotech, the first season, which was the Macross saga. He played, that was like one of his very first roles. Cam Clark also has played Liquid Snake in recent years. Cam Clark has done a whole bunch of really cool stuff, so it was kind of cool to see him in, or not see him, but hear him in this particular game. You know, I know Diablo 3's story is like, well, people complain about Diablo 3's story, but I personally feel like, well, if you compare Diablo 3's story to what's going on concurrently in Diablo 4, I think Diablo 3 actually ends up with the better story, even if it's a stupid plot. Like, I know a lot of people were not very happy about, like, the whole fact that Diablo kind of manipulated, and particularly the Wanderer, manipulated the situation to have Adria give birth to his daughter so that Diablo could have a vessel to be reborn in the world. I know a lot of people were not a big fan of Diablo and Diablo 3 looking like the xenomorph queen from Aliens in Diablo 3. I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that Tyrael went from being that really super badass character that he was in Diablo 2 to kind of like a bit of a, I don't want to say a wuss, but he became a very generic character, and a lot of the decisions that he made didn't make a whole bunch of sense. Like, another thing that kind of bothers me about Diablo 4, again, is like, and here's another, like, I could complain about Diablo 4 probably for 2 hours on stream, but a big issue that I had with Diablo 4 is the story in regards to Inaris. Because if you remember in Diablo 2 lore, and if you remember in Diablo 3 lore, particularly all the little audio snippets that we get for Diablo 3, Inarius was supposed to be one of the most badass angels that was in heaven. That was, you know, one of the very, very, very high up angels. He was a little bit lower on the tier than Tyrael, but he was considered a really big badass. And what happens to Tyrael, or not Tyrael, excuse me, Inaris, is he falls in love with the offspring of a demon known as Lilith. So he falls in love with the daughter of one of the prime evils, that being Mephisto. And they decide that they are going to run away together using the World Stone to create the world that we see here in the Diablo universe, the world where the humans live in, the world where the Nephilim live in, as they're referred to in Diablo 3, and then they changed the name again and don't even reference the Nephilim in Diablo 4. That being, here, Sanctuary. So what ends up happening is after Lilith and Inaris create this world, and they create the humans, aka the Nephilims, but then they take it away in Diablo 4 and just call them the humans again, they, you know, seem like everything's going to be happy until Inaris has a change of heart and decides that the creation that he's done is a bastardization on you know, heaven, everything. He's made a terrible mistake, and he wants to erase the sin that he's created to be able to get back into heaven. And Lilith doesn't take very too kindly to that, and a battle ensues. And what ended up happening at the end of the whole issue between Lilith and Inaris, because Inaris does try to kill the Nephilim, which causes Lilith to interact with him and put him in his place, Inaris got sent to hell. And in hell, he's tortured for years and years and years on end. So you would figure with all that torture, he would come back as some super great, awesome badass. And that's what we think is going to happen in Diablo 4 in the very, very, very beginning of Diablo 4, because he looked, you know, he's escaped from hell somehow. I think it's safe to say that that was not Lilith's doing, but that was Mephisto, who purposely let him out just to lure Lilith into, you know, back into hell so that she could be dealt with. I think that was all part of Mephisto's plan to begin with, to get revenge on Lilith for disobeying him. And what ends up happening is we're doing a Greater Rift here, in case you're wondering. So these Greater Rifts are very high level. From time to time, I might get killed. There might be times where I'm not able to clear it, so just bear with me and Dread Knights here, as we did. But getting back to our TED Talk on Diablo 3 lore exploring. So what ends up happening is, in Diablo 4, Inaris somehow got released. Most likely it was Mephisto, or somebody else, maybe even Diablo, had released them just to kind of cause a whole bunch of chaos, because Diablo always likes to play the fences, right? And he gets released, and he goes back to Sanctuary, and he starts amassing an army of people who are his disciples, despite the fact that he hates the humans and everything. And they gear up for this big, amazing war that's supposed to happen in the 4th chapter as a climax. What ends up happening is, you know what, Inaris goes in there all brave and brash, and within seconds of his battle with Lilith, he thinks he kills Lilith, and he thinks that he's going to get redeemed, and he's going to go back to heaven, and everything's going to be like the way it used to be. And what ends up happening in that whole thing is heaven rejects him. No beam of light comes down to say, oh, you finally redeemed yourself, you finally atoned for your sins, come back, Inaris. No, none of that stuff happens. Instead, heaven goes completely silent. He gets so distraught, he becomes a bit of an emo, a bit of a very big, heavy emo, and saying, oh, but I did everything, and he looks around, and he's so distraught. And at that time, Lilith stabs him in the back, because he didn't, you know, his greatest mistake was he didn't do like Thanos always said. He didn't go for the head. And what ends up happening is Lilith stabs him in the back and then rips off his rings, and it looks like Inaris dies in hell. And I was so hyped for that, because I was like, okay, fine. Inaris dies in hell. Maybe Inaris is going to get reborn as some type of great evil, a new prime evil, a new demon, a new big baddie. That's why I originally thought Diablo 4 was going to end with, like, we'll kill Lilith, but Inaris is going to end up being, like, the true villain, and he was playing the scenes, and he's gone super, super rogue, and we didn't get any of that. Instead, what we ended up getting was just Inaris' rings being ripped off, Lilith being killed in a very quick manner, and Mephisto manipulating Nerel to be able to get what he wants. And then even in expansion, we still haven't even actually seen true Mephisto and what his plan was, which I think is kind of just a big F you to everybody, because they're expecting, okay, well, this expansion, we're gonna fight Mephisto, and that's just gonna be the end of Mephisto, and that's gonna lead into Diablo, and, you know, Baal, and there's some of the more important primevals in the game. And no, that didn't end up happening, because we're getting tripped through it. So I was disappointed with it, you know, and I also feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities between the story of Inaris, because, like, we see him very early on in, like, the 2nd chapter of the game, and then we don't see him again until the 4th chapter, and by the time we see him again in the 4th chapter, it's that, like, 8-minute cutscene, where then Lilith takes care of him, and that's it. And they hyped up, even before the game was released, they hyped up in the trailers that this was going to be some big, awesome war between Lilith and Inaris, and it didn't pay dividends. Instead, we got a very generic story where we spent more time with Loraf, who Loraf is a pretty cool character. I mean, he was in Diablo III. He's the guy that's always talking to Tyrael, usually at the various different base camps. Usually it's in the second world that you really see Loraf. And we had Loraf and his other buddy that were, you know, having their triff. And, you know, it just felt like all the characters were kind of tacked on and nobody really cared for. And even Narelle, like, I thought she was kind of a cool character, but, like, again, like, she's just used as a plot device for, you know, good old Mephisto. And it just felt like it was a generic plot that was hyped up so much. Now, I'm not saying that Diablo III story... Well, actually, I might argue, and people might hate me for this, I would say despite how bad Diablo 3's story is, and a lot of things that it does to kind of undo some of the great characters like Tyrael, it still at least stays true to source material, and doesn't, like, really, like, cheapen it. And I feel like it really took a great turn, particularly in the Reaper of Souls expansion, where we had Mephiel, I felt like, after you do Mephiel in Diablo 3, like, that should have paved the way for us having this really awesome boss battle with Inaris, because I'm like, you came off of Mephiel, who was so freaking cool of a character in that expansion, despite the fact that some people will feel like he was just kind of tacked on. It was basically the angel that determined who went to heaven and hell. He was basically like the Grim Reaper himself in a way. And he goes rogue because he's tired of seeing the eternal conflict and decides to put the Soul Stone, where Diablo is, inside himself. And when he dies, the Prime Evils get freed again, which is kind of crazy because had we not killed Mephiel, had Mephiel never stole the Soul Stone, none of the events in Diablo 4 would have ended up happening, because that would have been the end of things. So I was expecting after Mephiel we were going to get a super badass Inaris fight. We never got it. Like, I just felt like there were so many things. I understand Diablo 4 wanted to move away from Diablo 3. I get that. I understand, because some people feel like that was a level 110 Greater Rift. That's about the highest we're doing. We're just trying to level up some gems, as you saw there. So I'm trying to level up the Bane of the Trap, the Bane of the Stricken, and Gorok of Swiftness for this build. So it's going to be a process. I'll let you all know, because it takes a while to grind up these things. Some of these will take a while, but that's kind of what we're doing today in the session, having TED Talk about Diablo 3 versus Diablo 4, and even Diablo 2. Diablo 2 has the best storytelling out of everything. But, like, yeah, we didn't get our Inaris fight. That was badass, and I got upset about that. We got Lilith, but I felt like they kind of cheapened Lilith in certain situations. Not showing the cinematic where Inaris killed Rothmon, and how just Rothmon is quickly dealt away with. Rothmon is the first necromancer ever. He's the one that created the necromancer race in Sanctuary, and they introduce his character through these very weird, like, in-game cutscenes, but we never get a full true cutscene of, like, Inaris killing Rothmon, which I think was a great thing. And the fact that they killed Rothmon too, like, I just don't like that, because it's like, you killed the father of necromancers. At least give him a fucking cutscene in the game. And that just, they didn't do that either. So I'm like, what the hell is going on with this game, man? Like, so many missed opportunities to kind of really redeem the story all around. And they just failed all the way through. Like, even, like, I knew from the way the 4th chapter ended going into the 5th chapter of the game, that I knew that Narelle was going to get manipulated by Mephisto. It was pretty obvious that Mephisto was going to. And Narelle, you know, with the Soul Stone's like, no, I'm going to take him, and then we're going to do this, instead of letting Lilith absorb him. If Lilith had absorbed him, they would have been able to, like, kill Lilith with the Lord of Hatred. She would have become the new Lord of Hatred, right? Or I guess she would have technically become the Empress of Hatred. We're going to use the puzzle ring to go into the vault to do a very quick loot run, because sometimes you can get good loot and also get extra gems that you need to be able to help with augmentating gear, as well as adding stuff to your gear. But yeah, you know, so that was a very missed opportunity there for me personally. I was like, you know, you hype all these characters up that we hyped up in Diablo 3, and then you gave them, like, shitty ends. Like, Lilith, even the Lilith fight outside of Uber Lilith was very, like, underwhelming. And, like, Lilith's logic at the end was that she just wanted you to join her side and be, like, her powerful right-hand man. Please pardon noise in the background. I live in a noisy city, New York City, so from time to time you'll hear emergency service just run through because I live very close to a police department. I'm like 3 blocks away from a police department, 3 blocks away from the nearest hospital, 4 blocks away from the fire department. So you're gonna hear them from time to time pass through. That's just kind of the way it is here in good old New York City. But yeah, you know, so with everything that was going on in Diablo, like, they hyped up all these characters from Diablo 3 and then do no justice whatsoever in Diablo 4. No justice whatsoever. And it just, it upsets me. It greatly pisses me off, because it's like, why? Why did you have to do it? It's like, they just wanted to piss people off that were fans of Diablo 3. And, again, you know, it's just like the MMO experiences, so... You know, I'm hoping it gets better. I don't think it's ever going to get better. I still haven't had any interest to, like, revisit Sanctuary in Diablo 4 and see what changes they've made. Just because Laptop Tran hasn't been doing too well with stuff. I mean, honestly, I think the only way that I would go back to Diablo 4 is if they put the expansion on sale for a lot, like, heavily discounted. Like, the expansion would have to be, like, $15 maybe. And I would consider getting it, and then trying it out, and seeing how things are. But I just wouldn't pay $40 for what was offered, because, like, it doesn't seem fun to me, right? And I feel like, if they gave me an offline option for Diablo 4, where I didn't always have to be connected to the internet, because here's the thing, like, I have a laptop, right? A reason I have a gaming laptop, and the reason why I use my gaming laptop, please pardon the noise yet again, my apologies there. I don't have control of the outside world, despite everything. But, like, one of the things that I wanted to say here is, like, when it comes to, like, Diablo 4, like, it'd have to be heavily discounted, and, like, they would have had to change, like, a lot of mechanics. I would give it a try again. But I probably wouldn't like what I would see. I had to wait seasons for it. It's like, what they offer now is just not great. Oh, that was the what I was getting to. The other thing is, like, I like to be able to game on the go. That's why I have a Nintendo Switch. That's why I have a gaming laptop. Maybe I'm going to be at a hotel somewhere I want to game. How can I do that? I would need to, you know, be able to transport. Sometimes, like, I take trips where maybe I'm on a train. I wouldn't necessarily, like, not a subway car, but let's say I take a train. Or I'm on a very long train trip from one state to another. It'd be kind of cool. On trains, usually the Wi-Fi is pretty bad. And although, you know, you could do hotspot, that's not necessarily the best thing to do because it eats up your data. So, what I would like to do is be able to, like, play Sanctuary offline. Maybe I'm not near an internet connection. Maybe I just want to do some stuff on a work break where, you know, I'm at a place where there's not, like, a Wi-Fi connection that I can use. You know, like how I could do in D3, like how I could do in D2, and D2 Resurrected. And they took all that stuff away, that option. And that, I think, is a really big deal breaker, because since I always wanted this MMO experience in a dungeon crawler that never really gels well with each other, I just kind of lost interest. I know. I've been harping on a lot about this. People would be like, well, Dread, why don't you just go play Path of Exile? Well, to be honest with you all, I just never been interested in Path of Exile. Like, I have played Diablo games my whole entire life. I have played Diablo 1 on PlayStation. I have played Diablo 2 on computer. I have played Diablo 3 on computer and Nintendo Switch. I have played Diablo 4. I am very invested in these characters. I am very invested in the world of Sanctuary. I grew up with these characters. I grew up in this world of Sanctuary. Some of the times when I've been very super stressed out about life, I just will come back to revisit Diablo 3, or sometimes I'll go into Diablo 2 and Diablo 2 Resurrected, and I'll just grind out, because it's like a Sanctuary. This is like a fun, cozy game for me. I know it doesn't look very cozy, and we're dropping a whole bunch of meteors on these enemies, and it might look like not cozy, and it's pretty stressful at times because of all the enemies coming out and the rotation I do. That was a bad black hole now. I didn't really need to do that. That was a skill issue of my part. And that's what I really love about this game. Coming through the world and the lore and going revisiting cutscenes, and if I want to do adventure mode, I can do adventure mode of the game and run through the story super quickly and very fast. But none of that stuff, man. None of that stuff. Everything that I love about Diablo is not present in Diablo 4. And it kills me. Because I had such high hopes for it. When they announced the game finally, I was so like, yes, Diablo is back, baby. This is going to be great. This is going to be my go-to game, and this is going to be the thing that I enjoy playing all the time, 24/7, and that didn't happen. Maybe at some point I will check out Path of Exile 2. I know a lot of people have been telling me, Dread, just play Path of Exile 2. Just give Path of Exile 2 a chance. If you only played Path of Exile 2, you will have so much time. I don't think we're going to be able to do this Greater Rift before the time limit, because I've been taking a lot of unnecessary deaths. There's just too many deaths coming, so we might actually fail this one. But we'll try. We don't like to quit in these games. And I know, right? Maybe I'll try Path of Exile. Maybe at some point. It depends how big of a download it is. I'll check it out. I'll see what classes are interesting, if anything. And I'll give it a run through and see. If it's free. I don't even know if it's free. Is Path of Exile free? I don't even know at this point. I haven't honestly checked. I know that Path of Exile was like an early access and you had to pay for Path of Exile. And I know it's like going to be a free-to-play game, so I was like, well, I'm not going to pay for something that's going to be free. I already did that a long time ago. It's called Lost Ark. I actually paid to be able to play it a couple of days early, and then I never even finished the story in Lost Ark. I played for a little bit, and then like the world that I was on for the server, like a lot of people stopped playing on that world, and then I could migrate it over, but I didn't have time to migrate it over. A lot of the endgame content, like I went to revisit it again, and I just like, it doesn't seem like there's anybody in this world, and it feels like it's just gonna be a boring experience for me, and then I just stopped playing Lost Ark. I never went back to it, because it was just like, this isn't popping. I mean, even the last time I did check out Diablo 4 for a little bit prior to it, like, the world that I was on in the Eternal Realm, nobody was doing anything on the Eternal Realm. And, like, I feel like once you finish your characters, like, there should be shit to do, and, like, shit should be popping in the Eternal Realm. Like, not everybody wants to always do seasonal characters all the time, because sometimes you just kind of want to chill and relax and do other things, right? So, you know, what ended up happening was, you know, when last time I visited, yeah, we're not going to finish this Greater Rift, I can tell, 100%, because we're just dying too much, and this area is just going to keep sniping me. I might have to go back to base and try. We're not going to make the time limit here. It's fine. Not every run is going to be perfect in Diablo 3, because we're at Greater Rift 110, an unoptimized. I don't even know what's technically killing me. It's something sniping me. Alright, let's see if I can run back here and kit them. Yeah, no, something just keeps killing us. I'm gonna try one more time in that. Yeah, we can't. We're not doing this run. This run is over at this point. I gotta go back to base. So we're just getting ganged up here. Yeah, that's so unfortunate, guys. Yeah, I gotta get rid of some of these guys just so I can kind of get a safe teleport in. But everywhere I am, there's no, like, self-teleport option. Did we die again? Resurrect at checkpoint and see if I can teleport from here. And because I gotta repair my gear, you see the yellow, my gear's broken, so we're gonna take more damage. I hate when that happens. Every once in a while, you're gonna run into a run that's unsuccessful. I should back out, because I don't think we have enough time to clear out that one, but I'm not gonna run away from this one. It would be a bad idea. But yeah, you know what, so I think I'll check out Path of Exile 2 eventually, and see how it is. I have to make space on the computer and see if it doesn't stress out Laptop Chan in terms of the specs, and see how it runs too. And if it's like fun, I'll probably stream it at some point. I have to see if it's a paid for game right now, because if it's still on early access paid for, I will wait on that unless the lovely developers of Path of Exile 2 want to throw me a key. And I would gladly be able to do some sponsored content and try it out and see if it is really better than the Diablo games. I don't mind. I don't mind trying that, you know? It's something that we could do, you know, if somebody's interested in me playing Path of Exile too. I guess we could do that too, Dread Knights. I'm open to it, you know. I don't think it's gonna make me be as wow with the world as Diablo will, but, you know, if there's a good sorcerer class or sorcerers, I'm always interested in playing a new sorcerer's class, so we could definitely maybe somewhere down the pipeline try it out. Diablo 4 is probably not, like, unless it's super discounted expansion, I would check it out. And even then, I don't know how long I would even stay in, because I just feel like, as much as I love Diablo as a game, I don't love Diablo 4. And I've already been in a very vicious cycle with Diablo 4. I've been to the point with Diablo 4 where I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship, where I keep saying I'm going to leave Diablo 4, and every time, like, Diablo 4 does something, it's like, but I can change, I can be better, I can be a fun game, yes, I truly can. And I believe their lies, Diablo 4 we're talking about. And then, like, I'll play for a season, and they'll do something that'll make it really cool, and a season later it'll do something to upset me, and they don't change their ways, and it was all a lie. That's how I feel like my relationship has been with Diablo 4, that everything's been based on a lie, where I keep wanting to leave Diablo 4, and every so often they'll show me something that I like, and I'll be like, oh, but it's changed, and it's never truly changed, Dread Knights. It's never truly changed, and it pains me, because it's a franchise that I love so much. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh! You know what? I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I love playing card games. I enjoy the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. I enjoy the Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG. I enjoy even Master Duel, despite the time that sometimes it doesn't feel like I enjoy it, just because I feel like there's a lot of sussy stuff that goes on that goes under the radar. And yeah, some of the decks are very annoying. But, you know, that's the love that I had for Diablo, where despite having flaws for it, I still enjoyed it. But with Diablo 4, it's not like that type of situation with, like, Master Duel, where I take a break from Master Duel because things are maybe too sweaty, or things are... I have an eyelash that just dropped in my eye. Have you ever had that happen? Imagine having that happen on stream where then you're kind of like blinking. So if you see me blinking weirdly, it's because the eyelash fell on my eye. But yeah, you know what? So like with Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, I take a little bit of break and I'll play a different deck, or I'll take a little break till an event happens, and I'm like, yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Changed for a while. Yu-Gi-Oh! Changed into better. Diablo 4, no matter what break I take, and then I come back, it never gets better. It's like, why am I playing this game every time? And maybe we might be able to. We might be able to come back from this greater rift here. Maybe we might be able to clutch it. Getting back in the time, so there's a possibility I can move back though. Because if not, like, what really screwed us up this run, particularly with trying to clutch here, was that a lot of the modifiers in this particular greater rift ended up being stuff where it was a lot of enemies with AoE effects. And when you have this much stuff with the meteors going on screen, I can't tell where the AoE effects are going off because my AoE effects are always trumping it. So, like, I can't tell when there's explosions. I can't tell if there's acid pool. Like, there I can't tell you what really killed me. I have no idea what killed me. It might have been an acid pool. It looks like it was an acid pool, but I couldn't see it because of all the meteors that was going on. It could have been that enemy that explodes and gets the snakes, and I'm very far away. That's why I'm moving far away from these guys so that that doesn't happen. It looks like there was random lightning. Like, I really don't know what happened this run, but I know we're not going to be able to finish it, which is fine. Not every run on Greater Rift 110 is just going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy. I understand that. I know what I'm signed up for. I did mention earlier on in the stream that we were going to be doing very, very extreme content here today. Very, very, very hard content. And, you know what, we're not doing it with anybody. We're just doing it with the mercenary that they have here. Yeah, so that's the thing, too. Well, that's a great point, too. Mercenaries, if I'm not mistaken, were locked behind Diablo 4 paid DLC. So if I wanted to use mercenaries to make my time a little bit less miserable in Sanctuary in Diablo 4, I had to pay for the expansion, too. You know, I don't mind the expansion, but, like, what it was offering me versus what I was getting was not what I was willing to pay for. And that's happened. Like, it's like with the Nintendo Switch 2. Please don't cancel me, guys. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 because I want to talk about it. The Nintendo Switch 2 is very, very expensive. I am not going to be buying a Nintendo Switch 2 anytime soon, especially with what's going on in regards to, like, tariffs right now, because it doesn't seem like tariffs are going to make the Nintendo Switch 2's release any better. A big no for me with the Nintendo Switch 2, ironically, wasn't the console's price. I didn't think that the console priced at, well, I don't know what it's going to be even tomorrow, because it's probably going to change based on all the market prices. I didn't think $450 for the Nintendo Switch 2, considering the graphics card that I had in here, was all that bad of an offering. I thought that was a pretty decent price point. What became my problem with the Nintendo Switch 2, and no disrespect to you, Nintendo, we've worked before as my IRL self, where I talked about this on stream for Smash Brothers. We worked together for quite a while. My problem with the Nintendo Switch 2 is not the price of the console, but the price of the games and the price of all the hidden things aside from that. Like, you have to pay for the voice chat on the Nintendo Switch 2. When have you ever heard of a console that you have to pay for the voice chat in a game? When have you ever heard in the Steam release of a game that you have to pay the developer to be able to use the voice chat in the game? We have to pay for the voice chat. Okay, fine. Then, hey, the Switch 2 will upgrade your Switch 1 games. Okay, great. It's going to enhance my games. That sounds great. I kind of would like that. An upgraded, that makes the Switch 2 basically like a Switch Pro, right? Okay, fine. No problem. I have no problem with you doing that whatsoever. Until then we see stuff like Breath of the Wild and what is it, Tears of the Kingdom, and Super Mario Party. What is it, Jamboree? If I'm not mistaken, is the name of the game. And it becomes a situation where, okay, you have to pay full price for the game if you don't have it already on the Switch 2. I understand that. That kind of makes sense. Or you have to pay the upgrade price. And some of the upgrade prices are like $20 to $40. So let me get this straight. If I want to play Tears of the Kingdom, an upgraded version of Tears of the Kingdom, or an upgraded version of Breath of the Wild, or... Well, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, to my knowledge, on the Switch 2 has a free upgrade where it just upgrades and it's not, like, paid for. Which is kind of find it funny how the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet game could never be optimized on the Switch 1, but then lo and behold, on the Switch 2, it was able to be optimized. Then why release Gen 9 on the Switch if you could never get it to run correctly? That's our problem too, like, with the Switch 2, like, Pokemon Legends, what is it gonna be? AZ? Like, there's the Switch version and then the Switch 2 version. So the Switch version was just coming out very close to the release of the Switch 2 release, or correction, let me not, a little after Switch 2's release, if I'm not mistaken, because it's in full. Yeah, we're not gonna be able to beat this boss before Time Over. I think Time Over already even happened, if I'm not mistaken. This is the Butcher nerd character that, at least they did him justice in Diablo 4. They made him way harder, even though I'm getting wrecked by the Butcher in Diablo 3 because I just ran into a very unfortunate series of events this particular game. Yeah, we died. This was just a bad run all over. We'll clutch it out the next time. It's fine. Can't win them all, right? And we just kind of got, like, janked out. I am a little bit out of practice, too, so maybe it was a little bit of a skill issue as well there. Some loot, decent loot. We're not going to be able to upgrade the gems here. But yeah, getting back to the Switch 2. So, like, let me get this straight. I got to pay for Tears of the Kingdom upgrade. I got to pay for the Mario Party upgrade. I got to pay for this upgrade. I got to pay for that upgrade. Oh, and then, like, the demo for the game. Paragon level 1527. So that shows you I kind of know Life Diablo 3 quite a bit. Yeah, but then, like, for the demo thing that shows you how to use your Switch 2, you have to pay for the demo, too. It's not free. You have to pay for that, because that's considered a game. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And that's not even the best part about the Nintendo Switch 2. You want Mario Kart World? Well, guess what, buddy? I thought the game was going to be like $69.99, like how it is Tears of the Kingdom, right? Because that's why they raised the prices on the Switch game before, right? Because of the economy and everything. What happened with the Switch 2? Switch 2 game, Mario Kart World, it's going to be an $80 game. And in some countries, from what I've heard, the physical edition of Mario Kart World is going to be a $90 game. Now, I know some people who are Nintendo purists, some people who are hardcore Nintendo fans, some people who are old school Nintendo fans will say, but Dread, Super Nintendo games, back in the day, actually cost $80, like Killer Instinct and Final Fantasy III and other things. Okay, that's true, Dread Knight. That's true. But back then, $80 was worth a lot more than what $80 is worth in 2025. It was a lot more. $80 back in the 90s was like the equivalent of having $300, right? So, you know, it's not what you think, man. It's not what you think. It's inflation rates and everything. It was, people were making more money back then and not having to spend as much money, so it was affordable then. That's the part that people miss. Nowadays, people are making less money in appearance, and they're being charged for a lot more things. So that $80 now game versus that $80 game back when people were making a whole bunch of money is moot. You know what? So $90 for a video game in this day and age, when the average cost of a video game on Steam is between $40 to $69, is ridiculous. You know what? It is ridiculous. And I don't want to say people who pay $90 for the game or $80 for the game are going to be part of the problem, because no, if you got the money, you do you, fam. You do you, fam. But I'm not going to support $80 video game releases that are digital video games, where then you don't actually technically own the game, but you're renting the game from the publishers, you know. I'm not advocate piracy. I will never advocate piracy, but I don't advocate, you know, charging a whole bunch of money for your games. The games are too expensive. That's my problem. Like, if you want to charge for the upgrade prices on the Switch games, that's fine from the Switch 2. I think it's kind of shady. I think it's kind of messed up, but PlayStation 4 upgrades to PlayStation 5 were paid upgrades too. So I'm willing to let that slide because PlayStation 5 did it and nobody bitched about it really too much. So if the Switch wants to do it, that's fine, I suppose. I think what's funny is that the Switch 2 version of Tears of the Kingdom and the Switch 2 version of the Jamboree game is basically a regular Switch game, the regular Switch version of the game, plus the free update. So that was like, but you're charging the Switch 2 price of a cartridge. And another thing that bothered me with the Switch 2 releases too is like in Cyberpunk's case, you're getting the actual cartridge of the game. But then in other cases of the game, which has been proven so far, you're getting a game download code where it's like a 60, 70 gig game download that you're gonna have to download, and you're not even getting the physical game. So that you're buying a case for a digital code. Does that make sense to anybody? Does that make sense to anybody who's ever bought a video game going back to like the, let's go to the NES era. Like, imagine you spending $100 for an NES game or $100 for an Atari game, and inside the Atari game you didn't get a game, but you got a code to download the game. So you paid $100 for a case or a box. Imagine buying Final Fantasy VII for PlayStation 1 and it looking like there's going to be 4 CDs in there. Or free CDs, excuse me, because it was free CDs for Final Fantasy VII. And you open up the game case and you get a download code. But you just paid full retail price for it. Wouldn't you feel cheated? Wouldn't you feel dejected? What's the point of paying for a retail game if you open it up and there's not a retail game in there? I didn't like it when the Nintendo Switch did it. I didn't like it when certain companies did it with their PlayStation releases. It makes no sense. Why? What's the point? What's the point of having a physical case without a physical game? You don't own the games still then, right? So it defeats the purpose for a collector. That would be like buying a Blu-ray in this day and age, and you open the Blu-ray and it's just a download code for the downloaded version of the Blu-rays. You know what? Where with Blu-rays, when you bought them, you got like the download code in it with the DVD as well as the Blu-ray itself. Like, I don't get it. Like, and I look at this and it pains me because I love Nintendo. People know this. I had a 3DS. My 3DS broke 2 times over. This is the 3rd time that it's broken, and I'm willing to kind of fix it again. Because all my 3DS needs is battery replacement, and it'll be working fine. I just gotta replace the battery. And I gotta put like a thumbstick thing on my circle pad that doesn't have a thumbstick. And it'll be good to go. I love my 3DS. I played so many hours of my 3DS. I bought so many games for my 3DS. I loved my Switch. I have like 100 digital games on my Switch. I have a whole bunch of physical releases on my Switch. I got Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu midnight release. I got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet the day 1. I got Pokemon Sword and Shield because it was going to be a midnight release digitally at midnight. And the expansion. You know what? Yu-Gi-Oh! Games that came out on Switch. I bought the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games that came out on Switch. Mario Odyssey, Mario and Rabbids, Splatoon 2. I didn't get Splatoon 3 because I didn't really care too much for Splatoon 3. I have rocked with the Nintendo Switch faithfully and loyally for all that time. I have so many games, it's not even freaking funny on the Switch. I'm playing a Switch game right now even, guys, on stream. That should prove the love I have for the Nintendo Switch. And I feel like a consumer when they did the $80 price tag for games, not even so much the system again. I don't mind that the system's $450. I think that's perfectly fine price for what it's offering. The games themselves, though, like, that was a smack in the face to everybody who supported them. And you know what? Like, let's look at this realistically. I'm not a parent. I don't have children. I don't have a wife. I don't even have, right now, a girlfriend, really. Well, not really, I don't have a girlfriend. I don't want to say really because then somebody will think the wrong thing. No. I mean, I'm only interested in a rabbit. I've always said this. But anyway, that's not the point of the stream. What I'm getting at is, like, imagine you have a child, and your child asks you for a Nintendo Switch game, and Switch 2 game, right? And you, as a parent, look at the current state of the economy, and everything that's going on, and how hard it is to afford groceries, and to pay rent and everything, and you have to tell your kid, no, we can't afford that $90 Switch game. You have to tell your child no. So how many kids are going to be disappointed this Christmas season when mommy and daddy don't get them a Nintendo Switch 2? Or mommy and daddy can only afford to get them the Nintendo Switch 2 game with the Mario Kart World. It's going to get back to a point where, like, people are going to buy one video game, and then, like, they can't afford to buy any other video games for the console, so they'll have to rely on video game reviewers to review the games to see if the games were ever worth buying. Now, here's the other question with $90 Switch game releases, or $80 Switch game releases. How can you charge $80 and then, in good conscience, then want to charge DLC prices for game? How do you do DLC? You wouldn't be able to charge DLC for Mario Kart World, right? Mario Kart World's an $80 game. You would figure every character that should be in that game, every course, everything that should be in that game already, it should be a full release on release, is my point. Like, there should be no DLC for any Switch 2 game, because every game, for the price that they're charging, should come with, as is going to be, the whole game for its release cycle, unless you're doing free updates for it. But you can't justify, there's no way anybody could justify $80 game, and then on top of that, like, DLC probably go from $20 to $30 depending on the DLCs for game. Like, how do you justify that? You can't. You can't. And I know, it's not even a hard critique on Nintendo, but I know there's going to be some developers that are going to want to charge for DLC for the games. They're going to find a way, and the DLC is not going to be cheaper just because the base games went up in price for the Switch 2. No, they're not. And you know what? There are going to be people who buy the Switch 2 because of one particular game that they love, and that's their prerogative. I mean, for me, it's like, I need a new Pokemon that's not going to be released on Switch. If you get me a new Pokemon game that's not released on Switch, then I would probably have to consider the Switch 2 because I like to play, you know, Pokemon professionally. But other than that, like, that would be years and years down the line, I think, before the next generation of Pokemon games comes out. And even then, I think we're moving away from competitive Pokemon games going to be released on, like, as actual games, because you do remember they're doing the Pokemon, what is it? The Pokemon game that's just going to be the battle simulator. I think that's what VGC is going to, and that's running on the regular Switch, as well as a couple of other things that it's going to be running on as well. So, for me, personally, like, unless there's a new Pokemon game that only runs on Switch 2, and even then I wouldn't get it till, like, years and years later, after we see what's exactly going to happen in terms of price drop, I probably wouldn't even consider the Switch 2 at this point. And it's not because I don't like Nintendo. I love Nintendo and Nintendo games. I just personally don't want to support these practices, because the other problem is, for a lot of people, if we start buying games at $80 and saying $80 is acceptable for games, what's going to end up happening is even Steam games, even digital games on Steam Store, are going to start charging $80 for their video game. And then what's going to happen is, like, PlayStation 5 games, which are $69.99 right now, that is a very good price for games that I think is a fair price in this current economy, are going to start becoming $80 games and stuff. So, what is going to happen with Nintendo with this? I don't know. I don't know. There's already been so much backlash over the price, and you know what, there's already nervousness because of the announcement that they delayed the pre-orders because they're looking to see exactly what's going to go on with the tariffs. And I'll be honest with you, you know, nobody really knows right now what's going to go on with these tariffs, right? One day the markets are really good, the next day they're not. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of troubling signs, it doesn't look really good. People are losing money in their 401k plans, people are losing money, people are losing jobs. More people are probably going to lose jobs over everything that's going on, unless, like, real true resolutions start happening. And I'm not really optimistic that's going to happen, just based on who is the one that's, like, running the shots in regards to all this type of stuff. So, you know, I don't think this is going to be a good launch for the Switch 2. I think based on honestly, if I were Nintendo, I would delay the Switch 2's release. I wouldn't release it in June. I would wait and see how I can somehow get the cost down for this device. I would wait and see how I can do something to maybe cut down somewhere in the cost, even if it's like switch to digital only system or something of the nature. Like I don't see how you can get away, because right now there's a lot of unhappy consumers with the Switch 2. And if anybody remembers when the Wii U came out, the Wii U was priced at a very pricey price point, and nobody really wanted it because nobody really wanted those games, and people thought that was very expensive and it was inintuitive, and it just didn't feel like it was a true upgrade or worth the upgrade from a Wii. And what happened to the Wii U? The Wii U commercially kind of failed. It was too expensive. Developers didn't want to develop on it because it was very cumbersome to kind of develop for that gamepad, and things were very, very difficult. And like the price on a lot of things was just not worth it for a lot of consumers, so they passed on it. And that, I think that's the big problem with like the Switch 2. Anybody who had a Switch 1 wanted a Switch 2 because it was like gonna be the next enhancement, and it was gonna enhance things and make things better. And all those Switch players were fine with paying $69.99 for the games, and we're fine paying probably even like $400 for a system, because let's be realistic, right? $450 for the system I don't think is even necessarily bad considering what it is and how much more powerful it is. But like let's be realistic. Most Switch players went with $400 and $69.99 release. The fact that they didn't do that just like really alienated a lot of people who were really heavily behind Switch. Like I've seen our content creators who love the Switch. They talk about the Switch way more than I have ever talked about the Switch on this channel. Way more than a lot of other people who have talked about the Switch too on Switch on the channel. Even them, they're saying it's too damn expensive. When you have Charlie, Moist Critical, saying that everything with the Switch 2 is a scam, and everything about it right now is terrible and it's too expensive and they're shooting themselves in the foot, when Charlie is saying it, and Charlie is like the most reasonable human being on the internet when it comes to YouTube. Like, I think every opinion that Charlie, aka Moist Critical, has ever had on the internet has been 100% authentic, 100% real, 100% truth. When Charlie, Moist Critical, is saying this stuff about the Nintendo Switch 2, you know it's true. You know it's facts. Like, I don't know, man. Like, if I'm Nintendo, and this is me going back to my journalism degree, well, not degree, excuse me, my journalism background here, right? Like, I'm going back to that stuff. I was a games journalist, as we've talked about on this channel for a while. I've worked with Nintendo. My professional advice to Nintendo right now would be to delay the release of the Nintendo Switch 2. Look to see what's going to happen with the tariffs. Look to see, in terms of manufacturing-wise, what you can do to reduce the cost. Wherever that's having Nintendo move some offices, maybe, into, like, America and open a plant here to produce Switch 2 so that you can... If they're produced here, there can be a tariff on them, correct? Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but if I'm not mistaken, there are companies that are moving to the United States, like, or creating an assembly factory here to be able to, like, circumvent some of the problems with the tariffs. I don't know if Nintendo could get away with that because there's a Japanese company, but, like, wouldn't that make sense then if you move the company here to produce them? Wouldn't that lower the cost for the United States? Wouldn't that lower the cost for a lot of these other countries in regards to this? I mean, let's be honest with you, Nintendo has a lot of money. It's not like Nintendo is a poor company. It's not like it's Sega. No offense to you, Sega. I love you, Sega. We play a lot of games on the channel, Sega. If you released a Sega Dreamcast 2, I would buy that in a heartbeat, even though you don't make any more consoles. But I would. That was my favorite console of all time, Sega Dreamcast. Everybody knows. But let's be honest here, guys. Like, they have enough money where if they wanted to, they could open up plants in different countries to be able to keep the manufacturing costs down that they're claiming is the reason why. They're not going to do that. Why? Because it's money, right? Everything that's happening right now in the world, all these conflicts, and I'm not saying America's right in this case because America is definitely wrong in this regard for these tariffs and stuff. This is not the way to do things, in my opinion. But what am I? I'm just a VTuber on the internet talking about stuff. I'm just playing games and chilling with all of you here. But this affects all of us, right? But, like, if I was Nintendo, I would find ways to lower the cost that way. So that you could get the system, keep the system at the price that it's at. I think 450 is fine. Find a way to lower the manufacturing cost by manufacturing the games here in the United States to keep them at $69.99. I think if you do those two things, you may be able to skeet by with the whole paid for the voice chatting thing, which I don't think that's cool. I don't, again, that's something that I'm not 100% behind. But you know what? Like paying for the voice chatting and paying for the paid upgrades, keep that stuff. That's how you make your money back, right? That's how you make your money back that way, right? To spend money, to make money, you gotta spend money, right? That's always been the saying. So I think that would probably be the solution. Or you wait and see if maybe there's an agreement with the tariffs. Does the Switch 2 have to necessarily come out in June? No, not necessarily. I know they want to have the system out for Christmas time because they figured that this was going to be a hot-selling Christmas item. But let's look at things even realistically. With the way that things are with the price on Nintendo Switch 2, how many people realistically are going to be buying their children a Switch 2 for Christmas time? With the way the economy is. Some people have lost a ton of money on their 401k plans as it is right now. Right? Like, I don't see it even for Christmas time, like the way things are now, being a top seller. Maybe for rich people, but Joe Schmoes, you, me, anybody that's just, you know, struggling to make a living in this economy, people who aren't making a ton of money, because, like, let's be honest, I'm a male VTuber. Do you think male VTubers make a lot of money? You think I make, realistically, a lot of money off my YouTube channel? I don't make any money off the YouTube channel. You know how much money I make off the Twitch channel that I have that I barely use? Like, the most I've made is, like, $50, and then another time, like, I have, like, $25 in the account that can't be paid out because I need to do more streams to be able to get, like, another $50 payout. Like, we're getting paid chump change. We're getting paid less than what streamers, like, we're realistically getting paid not even minimum wage. We're getting paid sweatshop workers' salaries. Let's be realistic here, guys. So, like, I'm just like, and you're about too. So, you know what? I'm not making tons of money. You think I can afford to switch to on my living expenses right now? No, I can't. I can't. Like, Nintendo would have to throw me a bone here. And I don't think they're willing to. But professionally, like, I would have, Nintendo should hold back. Rethink the strategy, delay the system for a while. It doesn't necessarily need to come out right now, because you still got Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch coming out. You still got the Pokemon game coming out on the Switch. You still got Switch titles coming out. You can delay everything else, wait a while. I would say even wait till, like, the beginning of next year and see if things change a little bit. It doesn't, like, realistically, they don't have to release it this year. They just want to release it because it's been a while. And because they thought, like, they were going to be able to release this at a time where it was perfect for the market, and then all this other shit that's out of the control. Let's be honest, it was out of the control. I might back out of this particular run because I know it's kind of going to be a fail at this point. But let's see. I'm gonna repair this stuff and see if we can give it another college try. If it gets really bad, though, I'll have to dip out of that one and we'll do another greater run. But yeah, you know, that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm thinking right now. Nintendo should probably hold off on it. Because I don't think it ends well for them. I think it just ends with the system not meeting the sale expectations for this year, and then it just being not necessarily a bomb, but not a commercial success. And what'll end up happening is maybe Switch will have to lower the price on the Switch 2, Nintendo, excuse me, will have to lower it like 6-7 months down the line, like they did when with the Wii U, was it? No, the 3DS, because the 3DS was too expensive in the beginning. And then, but I think this is going to be even way worse than that. So I just don't see how they're going to be able to turn that one around. That's just me. That's my TED Talk. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk on what Nintendo should do with Nintendo Switch 2, really. You know, one other thought that I want to have here with the Nintendo Switch 2 is if Sony doesn't raise the price on their games, and if Sony could find a way to lower their price on their PlayStation members subscription and keep their system at the price that it's priced at, which is still expensive, but realistically speaking, I think it would be cheaper in this current economy to own a PlayStation 5 than a Nintendo Switch 2 because it has less initial startup costs. I'm going to back out of this one because we are not going to successfully do that greater refund. We just got another one of those situations like you saw earlier on in the stream where I ended up getting hit by, like, a lot of AoE things, and this armor set can't deal with it, so I just kind of back out, listen to nice, lovely music. Always hearing that music makes me so happy to be back in Sanctuary. But yeah, like, so I think if Sony could keep the PlayStation 5 at the price it is, it's pricey, but it's consumer to the price that's asking for. Well, some can argue Switch 2 is not that powerful, right? If Sony could keep their price point there, they keep their games at $69, find a way to lower your online membership a bit, and if Switch 2 releases the way it does, Sony could potentially get more users to them. It's going to be hard in the economy because of the way things are, but I think Sony, maybe, even though I suspect Sony's probably going to have to raise the price on PlayStation 5, if Sony bites the bullet, which they can, because remember, Sony PlayStation, but Sony makes tons of money on films. Sony is films, Sony is music, Sony is... I have a clock in my bedroom. Sometimes you see when I post to my IRL Twitter, I have a clock in my room. That's Sony powered. Watches are Sony powered. Televisions are Sony. Sony makes a lot of money. Sony is a company kind of like Chipotle. Chipotle themselves said that they're gonna deal with the cost of the tariffs and not pass it on to the consumers. Please, Chipotle, give me more meat in my barbacoa bowls when I ask for double meat, man. Come on, Chipotle, you're killing me here. I love your taste, but man, when I ask for double barbacoa and you don't put double barbacoa in your freaking bowl, when I don't even get rice in my bowl, I know I'm going off tangent here, just deal with it, right? This is my stream, we go off tangents all the time. Like, come on, Chipotle, is it really that much to give me actual double barbacoa if I pay $24 for the bowl? Is it? Perhaps, but no. But anyway, getting back to it, if Sony could just foot the bill like how Chipotle is doing it, they could potentially. Because Microsoft right now with the Xbox Series X, you don't even hear anything. I haven't heard any friend lately ever tell me, bro, I got an Xbox Series X. Bro, I play on Xbox Series X. No, everybody I know is on. If Sony takes the bullet, bites the price, takes a little bit of a loss on that to be able to keep things in, I think Sony actually will end up squashing Switch too, because people are going to be like, well, if I'm spending almost $700 on a Switch launch, why am I not just getting a PlayStation 5? Like, here's another thing that was very interesting to me about the Switch 2. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the Switch 2 anymore, and yet here we are still talking about it. I found it interesting that one of the games that's not going to be releasing for the Switch 2 on release, I didn't see anything about Overwatch 2. I didn't see anything about Diablo 4. I didn't see anything about one of the most popular games on Steam, on PlayStation 5, on Xbox Series X. Where's Marvel Rivals on the Switch 2? No, they didn't announce that. Isn't that interesting? No Marvel Rivals on Switch 2. One of the most popular games, and it's not on the Switch 2. Is Overwatch 2 on the Switch 2? Could it be that Nintendo made a deal with Blizzard so that Overwatch 2 is the one that's going to be exclusive? Where's Paladins on the Switch 2, by the way? Nintendo's Switch version of Paladins couldn't be updated anymore because of this system wasn't able to run it. What about Paladins on the Switch 2? Are you going to support Paladins on the Switch 2, Nintendo? Or are you going to abandon that game? There were a bunch of games that had to abandon because they were no longer, their updates were no longer able to run on the Switch 2. Are you going to abandon that? I want to know these questions. These are very important questions. I have a Nintendo Switch 1 with Paladins. I have the gold legacy pass of it where all the champions. They stopped updating it. I have a PC, so I still can play Paladins that way. But where is it? What about Switch 2 release? Interesting. A lot of questions. I feel like the only one that's really answering these questions right now is Sony. I'm not even a PlayStation 5 fanboy. But yeah, you know. Another thing surprising for Switch 2 announcements, no Monster Hunter Wilds announcement. I would figure we would have got a Monster Hunter Wilds Switch announcement. Then again, considering how optimization is on the PC for Monster Hunter Wilds, maybe Switch 2 owners don't want it. Well, I don't know. We'll see what everything happens in regards to all these things. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, other things I really wanted to talk about on stream while we continue to just chill, grind tier greater riffs. Anybody gonna be watching Wrestlemania upcoming pretty soon? Wrestlemania is like next week. I might take a little bit of I might not post weekend content for Wrestlemania. Keep that in mind. releases might be a little bit less coming out that week. I don't know. Maybe there are reasons for that, perhaps. But yeah, WrestleMania is going to be coming out. And many people are going to be watching WrestleMania. I'm pretty interested in the card. I believe I really want to see John Cena as this heel, even though I haven't been very convinced with his heel run, to actually, you know, beat Cody Rhodes. I'd like to see John Cena win the 17th heavyweight, or not heavyweight, but world championship and defame Ric Flair. I'd like to see what Cena's going to do. I'd like to see Cody be in the chase picture for the title again, you know? I'd like to see Roman somewhere down the line get into the title picture. You know, I feel like right now is the time to take the belt off Cody Rhodes, because the thing about Cody Rhodes right now is, like, Cody Rhodes has had the championship for a year now, right? He beat Roman last year. He finished the story. He told the story. He went into a lot of feuds. He had the Kevin Owens feud that was kind of okay. He had the feud with the Bloodline that was kind of weird, and Roman got involved in that. He had a couple of interesting feuds, but I think it hasn't done too much to elevate the product anymore, right? Like, we've seen Cody Rhodes deal with every heel that was available. We see Cody Rhodes toppled Roman Reigns. We've seen Cody Rhodes beat Gunther, even though it wasn't a title match, but it was for, like, what was it, the show that they did in Saudi Arabia, which I've never been cool with them doing businesses in those countries, but I don't get to make those rules. You know, teach their own, I suppose, there. But, yeah, you know, so it would be interesting to see Cody Rhodes lose the belt to a Cena heel, and Cena could be a very big monster heel, and Cena could have, like, feuds that would be very interesting. Like, Randy Orton isn't doing anything right now, and it'd be cool to see Randy Orton as a face going against John Cena as a heel, trying to take that title away from him, and, you know, failing to come up short there. Wouldn't it be cool to see Roman Reigns, depending what happens with the feud between Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and himself? It'd be kind of cool to see Roman Reigns try to chase after John Cena, take that belt off of him. Would it be kind of cool to see AJ Styles feud with John Cena again? Would it be kind of cool to see... There's so many different talents that could feud with John Cena that would help elevate their names because of John Cena. Just because of John Cena as a heel. And you know what? Like, Cody Rhodes maybe running it back and then taking the title back. It would do more for Cody to lose it and then eventually be able to take it back from Cena, or even it would do worlds of difference. Like, if you fought Roman Reigns right now as a face, was like the big face, like he was super over as it is right now, and everybody's like hot for him and cheering. If you had Roman Reigns take the belt off John Cena, the eruption, he will then definitely have surpassed the greats, because then he would have done everything that would have truly got him over with the baby faces. Yay! Paragon level 1529. No life confirmed. I suppose, right? Yeah, but if you do all those things, man, if you do all those things, I think it could be pretty cool. I think there's a lot of interesting stories that you could tell there with that one. Now, when we're talking about our characters, or our wrestlers, and their feuds, I don't really care for the Bianca Belair versus Io Shirai versus Rhea Ripley thing. I don't think Rhea Ripley should have ever lost the championship the way she did. I thought it was weird to have her win it back from Liv Morgan on Saturday Night Main Event, to then have her lose it to Io Shirai so quickly and so abruptly. I feel like we're leading into Bianca Belair turning finally heel because her husband is actually a heel, and maybe that's how they're going to kind of do things there with her. I think that would be kind of interesting, but I don't think Bianca Belair, who had the title for a very long time before on Raw, when she had the Raw Women's Championship before everything, I don't think it's the time to put the belt on Bianca Belair again. I don't think you really keep it on Io Shirai, because what feuds can you do with Io Shirai? Io Shirai is kind of like this in this in-between phase, right? Is she a heel or is she a face? I don't know. What is Damage Control right now? I haven't paid too much attention to broadcasting to be able to figure out if Damage Control is even Damage Control anymore, right? They kicked the Bailey out. They were a heel group. Then it looked like Io Shirai all of a sudden was a magically a face and stuff, right? Like what happened with Asuka. Asuka's out for a while. Is Asuka gonna come back and do like a heel turn on her? That would be the only thing that would make a lot of sense to keep the belt on Io Shirai. Or if you have Kairi Sane turn on her and stuff. I don't know what's going on with damage control. But it's kind of weird to have Io Shirai with the belt, and what are her feuds going to be? Who is she going to feud with? Who is she going to be able to get over or put over? What are her feuds going to do for the company right now? I don't know. This is the problem. It's not even a Triple H thing. This goes way beyond Triple H. This goes way, way beyond. Like, when it comes to Japanese and Asian wrestlers in WWE, they've always had a very hard time booking them. And it's not only WWE. I've seen in way, way back in the day with WCW, like, they had the Great Muta, and they never knew how to book the Great Muta the way that the Great Muta should have been booked. You know, like, they always, like, booked them weirdly, despite the fact that, like, the Great Muta was always a freaking legend. I mean, he got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame for crying out loud. But I always feel like they haven't figured out a way to book people. Like Tajiri. Tajiri was a really good wrestler. It's just a lot of Tajiri's matches nobody knows about because a lot of his best matches were in Japanese promotions. A lot of his best work in America was done on promotions that people never really watch. And the thing about it is, like, every time they've booked in WWE a Japanese wrestler, they haven't known how to do anything with them, right? They booked Tajiri. Tajiri didn't have. They turned him into a comedy gimmick. They had Hayabusa, Habushi. They didn't do anything really with him either. They tried to get him over, but it was a weird gimmick and didn't do anything with him. I think probably the biggest disappointment in modern WWE era, I would say, is Shinsuke Nakamura, a great talent that did so great in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then great in, you know, other Japanese promotions. And they've dropped the ball with him because they didn't really know what to do with him in America, right? Like, all they needed was a good manager for Shinsuke Nakamura. But then they kept repackaging him with these gimmicks. So you had Shinsuke Nakamura, which was the original way it came out, which is the way it was in New Japan. And he was fine there. We're going to do a Echoing Nightmare because I'm trying to level up a gem so I can augment here. So in case you're wondering why we're doing this, this is kind of like a boss type of rush thing that you do until you die or until time expires, and then you get like a special gem. And I'll show you how you can augment. This is what we do to use this build to make it more powerful. So we're just going to kind of kill a whole bunch of enemies here. They're going to keep spawning. You just got to be careful of all the AoE that I don't end up dying here. But when it came to Shinsuke Nakamura, great in New Japan, comes in. They kind of booked him in the beginning, like how he is in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they let him do his thing. And then they started to put him in feuds that were not really important. I think where they really kind of messed up was when it was AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and they didn't give him the championship there. That was the perfect opportunity to take the belt off AJ Styles, give it to Shinsuke Nakamura as a heel turn, and give him that heel turn there where it's like, oh, this foreign wrestler has the most prestigious title in the WWE, and he has to get it back. And then we have all these baby faces trying to chase after Nakamura and try to get it back from him. And then maybe something would have happened. Like, I think that would have been the perfect booking. They didn't do that because, well, it's Vince McMahon. And God forbid Vince McMahon ever booked the character in recent memory the right way, right? They never would have done that, right? No, they never would have done that. So Nakamura then just kind of became a heel that really didn't make any sense, and they got put into weird blow-off feuds that didn't do anything. Then they made Shinsuke Nakamura a face again, and they had him feuding with random people on random shows that nobody ever cared about, and every so often they use him, and no. So then he randomly comes back with this like random ninja gimmick, attacks LA Knight, who really is kind of over, and they should be doing more stuff with LA Knight, personally in my opinion. And with LA Knight, like, he attacks him, he beats him for the title. He has the title for, what, 2 or 3 weeks? Nothing ever happens. I know Nakamura's brother, I think, passed away, so he wanted to take time off for that. So he loses the belt, drops it, and now I've heard rumors. I don't know if they're true because, you know, it's dirt sheets, so you can never really believe any type of rumor website, rumor YouTubers, rumor anything, because they're always fucking kind of out of their behind. But then when it comes to Nakamura, like, he seems like he's going to be on his way out. So what's going to happen with him? Is he going to go to AEW, a company that has way too many wrestlers on it that they don't even know what to do with it, that has way too many titles that they don't know what to do with, that has too many feuds that don't really make a bunch of sense, like Jon Moxley Why is he still the AEW World Champion? Why? Why? The Death Rider storyline, I check it out every once in a while. I'm in the know when it comes to wrestling stuff. Death Rider storyline's stupid. It's not doing anything for the product. Less people are watching AEW now than at launch. Like, what are you gonna do? Let's say Nakamura goes to AEW, right? What's he gonna do? He's gonna feud. Who's he gonna feud with? He's gonna feud with the Elite. He's gonna join the Elite. He's gonna join the Death Riders. That wouldn't make any sense, right? Who's this feud's gonna be with? They're gonna use him for 1 or 2 weeks on Dynamite, and then it's gonna be like how it is with Okada, where he's gonna every so often you're gonna have him on Collision, and that's it. And then like after a couple weeks, he's gonna be completely forgettable because there's just way too many talents there. I was hoping we were gonna be able to get the gem all the way 150, but I think 111 is gonna be fine enough for me. I think in my personal opinion. But yeah, you know, what do you do then? What do you do? What do you do? How do you book Nakamura in AEW? I don't think so. So I think Nakamura then has to go back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, where him going back there would be like a godsend. It would be like the second coming of Jesus in New Japan Pro Wrestling if Nakamura goes back. Because Nakamura, if I remember correctly, never held the New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship. He only held the Intercontinental Championship, to my recollection. So imagine if Nakamura goes back to New Japan Pro Wrestling and then won like the New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship. IGWP World Championship. That, my friends, that I think is where he needs to go, and then he can kind of build his name back up and then like kind of do some cross-promotional thing with AEW, assuming AEW can fix its constant booking issues that it has. I think that's what you do. I need a sip of water. Pardon me here. So I think you do that. I think that's where you go with Nakamura. And then, like, the rest of the WrestleMania card that I'm looking at here, Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton. Charlotte Flair, no disrespect to Charlotte Flair, she is a very good women's wrestler. She has held that championship quite a lot. Daughter of Ric Flair. A lot of people doubted her talents and stuff. She's okay on promo work. She doesn't need to be in this feud. I don't understand why she's in this feud. There's no reason that she should win this championship again. I don't see it. If Triple H takes the belt off Tiffany Stratton just to put it on Charlotte Flair again, when most people don't want to see that, even if it would get like heel heat, I don't think it's worth it. I think you're probably going to lose eyes on the product. I think at this point, putting that championship back on her is like going to give her go away heat. It's not going to do anything for her as a heel to make it better. It's just going to be go away heat. Nobody wants to see this. Nobody wants to see this right now. I don't like. In order to get a Charlotte Flair run with the championship to work again, you need her to not be in the title picture for a while, have her feud with a bunch of people. She would have to turn face. She would have to wait for like a monster heel. Like if you put Rhea Ripley and made her a monster heel for a while as a bad guy and go like on a truly big like devastation run, and then you had a face Charlotte Flair after like Rhea Ripley has held this belt quite a while, or had it been like Nia Jax when Nia Jax had the championship, and then you have her take a belt like that off of somebody, then people are going to cheer for Charlotte because she's a face and she's talented and stuff. I don't know why she came back as a heel. Because it wasn't going to do anything for the Tiffany Stratton feud. Because Tiffany Stratton, okay, she's not the best on the mic. She's still a new, not general, but she's a new talent. And she's got a lot of work on the mic to do, but she's very solid in the ring, which is why she has the championship that she has right now, which is the WWE's Women's Championship. But I think right now, for her to lose the belt and you put it on Charlotte would be a wrong move. I think you need to build Tiffany up so that Tiffany is like the face of your company moving forward. I think with Tiffany, you keep the belt on her. You have Charlotte put her over, even though I don't think Charlotte's going to want to put her over. You have Charlotte put her over. That builds a name for Tiffany. I think from there, you have Tiffany feud with a lot of our monsters on, a lot of the heels that are available on SmackDown. I think you have, eventually, Roxanne was a very, very, very good heel. She was a very, very good wrestler in NXT. She was a great heel in NXT. Much better as a heel than a babyface, in my personal opinion. I think you have Roxanne go into a feud with her. Have Roxanne take that belt off. Roxanne could do a lot of great feuds too. Like I don't see the need for Charlotte right now, right? Because I think in terms of the title picture right now on SmackDown, it should be more about the future, and Charlotte should be kind of doing the thing that Cena was doing for like 2 or 3 years before heel Cena run, where Cena was just putting over all the new talents all the time. I think you do that with Charlotte, because Charlotte, I think that's where she should go now, where you put her on the back burner for a while and people forget about her in the title picture. And then when she comes back to the title picture, it makes it all the more worthwhile. Long-term booking, long-term storytelling. Now, okay, talents, wrestlers, they have an ego, right? You always want to be the star of the show because you feel like if you start putting people over and you start doing this, that your character is not getting the proper treatment or that's beneath you and stuff. But, I mean, there's a lot of wrestlers who have done that in the past where they went off and they, you know, they put people over and they put people over and they come back. Look at Cena. Cena's putting people over for what? 3 or 4 years for the last couple of years. Yeah, at least 3 or 4 years of John Cena putting people over, and now look. He ends up winning an Elimination Chamber. They do the finally heel run. He has this farewell tour that's going on, and he's probably going to win the championship. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but Cena's probably going to win the championship, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good because they waited so much and they put Cena as like on the back burner to the point where now if he wins the championship, people don't mind because it's been a very long time since he's won it. And it's going to have meaning because of dethroned Ric Flair's thing. You know, so there's that. But with Charlotte, she's not there yet. She was out on injury, and it's it doesn't do anything. So that's my point I'm trying to make with that. Looking further on with the WrestleMania card, because I know I wanted to talk about wrestling today too, on top of Switch and Diablo stuff. This was going to be a very yapping stream again. When it comes to the card here, I'm also looking at, we have obviously Roman Reigns versus CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. Paul Heyman's going to be in the corner of CM Punk as opposed to Roman Reigns. I think when it comes to that particular feud, I see Paul Heyman betraying Punk and Roman. I could totally see Paul Heyman siding with Seth Rollins. Unless Paul Heyman is going to swerve Roman and pretend like he didn't really want to do this, and the favor that Punk did was to just like betray Roman in this triple threat, and that happens. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I think it's really going to be Seth Rollins, who nobody's really considering in this feud, who's kind of like taking it to everybody, that I think he's going to be the one that Paul Heyman helps win this triple threat. And then it's going to be a situation of Roman, Seth in this feud, because then look at it. Think of it this way. If Seth Rollins takes away Paul Heyman from Roman, it'll be a nerve thing for Roman to want to feud with and hate Seth for it, right? Because Roman was betrayed by Seth Rollins. He got hit in the back with a steel chair, and that's how the Shield broke up. Roman got eliminated in the Royal Rumble by Seth Rollins. They put each other over the ropes, and CM Punk also eliminated him, right? And that was Rollins' fault. Rollins curb stomped Roman and took him out of action for him. Before any of this stuff, when Roman versus Brock Lesnar happened at WrestleMania, Seth Rollins cashed in and curb stomped Roman and pinned Roman to become the champion. Brock Lesnar didn't lose the championship back then. I forgot which WrestleMania it was, but Seth Rollins did that. When you think about Seth Rollins as and there was a Survivor Series where Roman was champion and Rollins was coming back and didn't actually lose the belt, had to relinquish it, and Rollins ended up beating Roman for the belt, and then Dean Ambrose, aka Moxley, cashed in and took the title away from Seth Rollins there. But Seth Rollins has taken everything away from Roman. He also helped Cody Rhodes last year dethrone Roman Reigns for the championship, so he helped take away the championship from him. So Roman has a lot of reasons to be pissed. So what better for this long-term storyline that's been told for all these years than to have Seth Rollins take the wise man away from him? And then it finally leads to this one-on-one confrontation where they finally settle it. And you have this lead into however long, maybe a SummerSlam, maybe even further than a SummerSlam. And then with Punk, you know what, Punk got betrayed, what do you do with Punk? Well, that's great. Punk has a lot of feuds he could do with. He could feud with whoever comes out of the World Heavyweight Championship picture because, you know, he wants to win a championship again. You could have him chase after John Cena if John Cena wins the WWE Championship, and you have Punk chasing after and have a feud with Because, you know, Punk did talk crap about John Cena already. And you have Punk and Cena goes over in that feud, and maybe somewhere down the line you have Punk come back and stuff. And, like, do it again, maybe take the title off Cena. Like, there's stuff you could do with Punk. Like, there's a lot of people Punk can work with. Punk hasn't worked with Gunther. Punk versus Gunther. Well, technically, Punk and Gunther did work together because it was... They worked in a house show in... I think it was Germany where they worked. Because I did see the video of it this on X. So you can have... You know what? Cena... Or not, you could have CM Punk feud with Gunther. Let's say Gunther goes over in the feud with Jey Uso. You gotta put CM Punk in that feud, because who's Gunther gonna beat after? There's no other big baby face, right? If you keep the belt on Gunther, which I don't think they're gonna do, I think they're gonna, for all intents and purposes, put on Jey Uso. Who on Raw, realistically, you're gonna have him feud with? Drew McIntyre? Drew McIntyre versus him? I don't think people are really gonna want to see that. That's the other thing, too. Like, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, there you could revisit that feud again, too. Right? It's a possibility. If you put Punk in the title picture, and then, you know what, Drew McIntyre screws him over again for some odd reason, you could revitalize that feud, too. Like, CM Punk, I don't think needs to necessarily... He has a lot of avenues he can work with. He has a lot of people he can work with. There's a lot of talents he hasn't worked with yet that... You know what? Like, there's even NXT talents, if they came over, that they could work with. There's a lot of SmackDown talents. Like, there's so many things you could do with Punk by himself that he doesn't need to be really the one to go over in WrestleMania. Unless they just want to really push it that, like, this is their way of saying they're sorry to CM Punk that he never got the main event night one, and they give him the win that way. I hope it's not that case, because I feel like that's not... Him being able to main event, I think, is important. Him winning the main event, I don't think is the right call there. Maybe CM Punk would argue with me that that's not... That they should win and he should go over, but I don't know. To each their own. I'm not really a Punk fan. You know, so to me it's like, you know, if he wins, it's great, I guess. If he doesn't, yeah, it's whatever to me. But I feel like there's better storytelling of him losing at WrestleMania than there is with him going over. I think, if anything, Rollins is the one that has the most to benefit from going over this WrestleMania, because Rollins has been on the losing end of WrestleManias for 2 WrestleManias already, right? He lost his championship last year to Drew McIntyre. He, on top of losing the championship, lost the tag team match to The Rock and Roman Reigns. On top of that, the year before that, he lost to Cody Rhodes. The year before that, I think he lost to somebody else too. So he's been on a long losing streak of WrestleMania, so I think he needs a redemption. Roman only lost to WrestleMania last year. Roman won, though, a lot of our WrestleManias, right? Granted, they weren't the ones that really solidified him outside the Brock Lesnar one, but Roman has won a lot of WrestleManias. Punk has won his WrestleMania matches. They weren't main events. I think you give it to Rollins. I think there's better storytelling coming out of Rollins winning that than any of the other 3. Looking at other matches that are on this card, Jey Uso versus Gunther. I don't understand why this match is happening. I mean, I don't understand, right? Like, they wanted to put Jey Uso over because he's incredibly popular with the children. He's incredibly popular with the ladies. He's incredibly popular overall. Everybody on Raw is going yeet. Everybody on social media is going yeet. Everybody is yeeting all over the place.
Still waiting.
So that's why they gave it to him, because they want to go back to that old school way of how the winner of WrestleMania, or excuse me, the winner of the Royal Rumble goes on to headline WrestleMania and becomes like a household name and fulfills their dream. Right? That's something that didn't happen too much in the last couple of Royal Rumbles while going into WrestleMania as well. Vince McMahon was in here. I think, personally, it's a travesty that Gunther and Jey Uso is not the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania, because I feel like the World Heavyweight Championship is supposed to be a championship that has a lot of value to it. My biggest fear is that Jey Uso versus Gunther is going to be the opening match of WrestleMania Day 1. And I think if you do that, that's going to be a great disservice to both of those wrestlers. I don't think you do that. I mean, at this point, I would argue maybe what you do is you have Gunther Uso be the double main event for Night 2. So you have Gunther Uso go on before Cena Cody. And then you have them do their match, and you have Jay go over, and then you have Cena Cody lead it in. I mean, I think Jay's going to win it just because of his popularity. And also because they're going to want to have at least one face go over, because you have to have audience kind of have a face champion, though, just because it makes life so much better for them. Like, you've got to have a heel champion and a face champion, because when you have two heel champions, it makes wrestling fans very, very dejected when it comes to that type of stuff. This is going to be the last Greater Rift that we do also, Dread Knights, just so you know. We're getting close to the end of today's stream. But yes. So, you know, I think in the feud, I mean, I personally, if it were me, I would have Gunther go over, because I feel like Gunther having this championship and keeping this championship is more important. I feel like there's more value to having Gunther as your World Heavyweight Championship. You just got to put him against faces that matter. And I think really the key point there is, like, he just hasn't been in feuds with faces that actually meant a whole bunch of stuff. So I think maybe you have to bring over some people from SmackDown that are baby faces that you're not doing anything with to really get them into really good feuds. I feel like if WWE takes the belt off Gunther and puts it on Uso, it's going to be detrimental to Gunther's character. I think then Gunther is going to be one of these characters that just gets kind of lost in the sauce, on Raw particularly, because then what do you do with Gunther? At that point, I think the only thing you can do with Gunther is you would have to move him over to SmackDown, put him in the title picture there, and like try to push him as the WWE Championship at some point, and have a babyface like really take him out, like, you know, a foreign heel thing, kind of like how they did with Shinsuke Nakamura. Like, there hasn't, my point that I'm trying to make is there's so many wrestlers that were booked as foreign threats in the WWE that they never did stuff with that could have been monster heel. Like, we've never had another Yokozuna like booking, and I think that's a travesty to a lot of good foreign heels that have been there. I feel like Gunther should have gotten Yokozuna booking, because he has everything in terms of ring skills and in terms of mic promos that made him the perfect, like, new age Yokozuna foreign monster heel that you should have booked a long time. And I thought they were going to do that with the World Heavyweight Championship with him, and they didn't do it. And it got me so mad that they didn't do it with him, because, like, I felt like he was very, very earned. When Rusev was in WWE, I felt like it was a missed opportunity not to have the WWE Championship on Rusev, because Rusev had perfect foreign heel key. Like, everybody hated Rusev. They hated Rusev the way they used to hate Nikolai Volkov as a wrestler. Like, they really, really hated him. They hated him like how they hated... Oh, God, what's that guy's name that's no longer in there? Oh, man, he was the guy that... He was the guy that was the champion. He was a Middle Eastern. Oh, my goodness, I even forget his name now. Not Muhammad Hassan. Oh, my goodness, he was part of Free MB. Oh, Jinder Mahal, that was his name, Jinder Mahal. It took me a while, I was blanking it. Jinder Mahal, when they gave him the championship and everybody hated it. Like, that was one of the few runs, and that was Vince McMahon. I'm surprised Vince did that. But, like that's the last time I think they really invested on foreign heel, and they didn't even go as far as they probably should have with it, because Brock didn't want to feud with him, so that's why AJ got the belt. But, like, you know, they should have given Gunther that type of booking, and they haven't. And they put it on Jay. You put it on Jay, and it's great, because you have your face heel that everybody loves. But where are his monster heels that he's going to have to deal with? What are they going to do? Another feud with Gunther? We're trying Gunther to get it back, and Gunther loses, and then you devalue Gunther's character? Who else? Drew McIntyre? Like, I don't see enough enemy heels. What are you going to do? Like, who goes next after Jey Uso with this belt? I don't think there's better stories to come with Gunther, but I think Jey still goes over, because I think that's what the plan is. And then we'll just have to see what Triple H has in store for us there. You know, what do? You have his brother turn on him again? I don't think he could do that. So, but yeah, Gunther, I feel like, is, if he loses his belt, this is probably the end of Gunther in terms of any type of push in the main event spotlight. I feel like that's kind of a great disservice, because it just... I felt like creative dropped the ball there with him. Looking on our main event matches, there it is. Rey Mysterio versus... what's that guy's name? Chad Gable in the Luchador mask. Rey Mysterio's probably going to win that, because this is probably going to be Rey Mysterio's last WrestleMania, probably. I'd be surprised if Rey Mysterio loses. If Rey Mysterio loses, that also would probably indicate it's his last WrestleMania. I don't think he would put over Chad Gable in that storyline. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. Looking over our things quickly, because I'm going to be ending stream pretty soon. Just the rest of the matches available. The 4-way for the Intercontinental Championship. Honestly, I think you do... I keep the belt on Braun Breaker there if I were them. I would love to see Penta win the belt, but I think it's too soon. I don't think you need to give the belt to Finn Balor, who you haven't done anything with in God knows how long, unless you're trying to break up the Judgment Day. Um, who else is in that feud? I don't see you giving it to what's his name? The stupid Rey Mysterio Jr.'s son. Oh my God, what's his name? What's his name? I'm blanking. Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio. I don't think you give the belt to there. It wouldn't be the right call. What are you gonna do? Try to turn him face? I don't think you would do that. Dominic Mysterio. I don't think you can do a championship run right now. He's good as go away heat, but I don't see him as a mid card title. That I think what you do is you keep pushing Braun Breaker as this great heel that everybody's starting to cheer as a face, right? Like if you looked at the last segment that he had on Monday Night Raw, like when he came out and started spearing people, people cheered the shit out of him. So he's over. He's ready for that next baby face that's probably gonna have that breakout star moment. He is ready. I think you keep the Intercontinental Championship on him for a while because that's the attraction. I think you keep it on him. I think you let him go over in the feud and you keep pushing him and proving that he is the future there. I think it's okay that Penta could lose in this feud here just because it's not a one-on-one match, right? So Penta doesn't have to be pinned to lose this match. So it doesn't do anything to kill his credibility. Doesn't do anything to Balor's credibility. I'm not shocked if Balor is on his way out at some point because I always suspect Balor's going to go AEW just because like they've tried so many times to get Balor over and they've for whatever reason it is that just he doesn't connect with the audiences or WWE just hasn't done enough. Not even Triple H, who brought him in, has really ever done anything to push him with a belt, right? So what is it going to be? Balor versus Uso after this? Like, I don't see what Balor does outside of, like, I think he's on his way out. That's how I look at that. The women's matches, I don't know what else is on the card for them. There might be a United States Championship match. I'm not familiar with any of those talents enough to tell you who should go over. I think there's also the Women's Intercontinental Championship that's on the line. Who's the Intercontinental Champion? I don't know that champion. I don't know. Let me look at the United States Women's Champion. Chelsea Green? You keep the belt on Chelsea Green all the time. Why Chelsea Green? Chelsea Green is doing phenomenal work as a heel. Let her have that belt for a very long time to give the Women's United States Championship prestige. She's doing a phenomenal job. There's no reason to take the belt off her. There's no face in that mid-card scene right now that really should be taking it off of her. And if WWE pulls the trigger and takes the belt off of her, that'd be the worst mistake right now. You keep that belt on longer, at least till SummerSlam. As for the other one that has the belt, Intercontinental Champion, I don't know enough about that wrestler. I'll be honest with you, because I watch stuff of the product, but I don't watch all of the product to be able to really make that. And that's WrestleMania. I'm hoping maybe I'll get to watch. Well, I don't want to dock stuff. I probably will end up watching, most likely, WrestleMania. I can't tell you why. It won't be a watch along. I can't really do that for various reasons that are pretty obvious. I'd be too busy anyway, first of all. So, you know, we'll talk about WrestleMania again in the future. In case you want to know what this build is, again, it's just Tal Raja with Smoldering Core. I also have the Ghoul set on here. I have a build for this already that I've gone over, a guide. That's what I used to do here on YouTube. It's available in the comment section. I actually put it in, not the comment section, excuse me, I put it in the description. So if you check the description, I have gone over this build. I will teach you how to put this build together in the guide. It's in the description for this video. I'll also put it in the comments. That way you know where to look for it in case you're coming in from here just now or you were watching and you're like, wow, that's a really powerful build. I'd like to do what Dread just did on stream. Well, buddy, you're in luck. I can do that for you. That's basically the build. I use Spectral Blade here. I use Ice Blades there for the rune. I use Meteor, Comet. I use here Teleport, Safe Passage. I use Storm Armor. There you saw that. I use Familiar. And I use Black Hole, Spectral. And as for the things in the cube, here you can see them. Let's see, Arcane Dynamo, Audacity. I'm sorry, my Joy-Con does drift a little bit here. And I'm trying to, yeah, it drifts a lot. For the Knights Cube, the Grand Visor, Shane of Desiree, and the Ring of Royal Grandeur to be able to take full fight. This guide has already been made before Dread Knights. It's in that description. It's there. Just, you know what, check it out if you haven't already. Leave comments. Anyway, guys, let's go back into just chatting here. So that was Diablo 3. I haven't done Diablo 3 in a while. We got to also talk and play Diablo 3. I hope you enjoyed the Diablo 4 talk as to why I don't really play it anymore. I hope you enjoyed the talk about the Nintendo Switch too. I know it's controversial to really talk about that stuff. Oh, God, do I know at this point. People want to cancel me maybe for that. But I thought it was pretty fun. I think Nintendo really needs to hold off on releasing it for the moment. That's my professional opinion. Maybe they listen to me, maybe they don't. Probably they won't listen to me though. Um, and then we talked a lot about WrestleMania's card, which looks pretty interesting in my personal opinion. If you're a wrestling fan, if you weren't a wrestling fan and you had to hear about all that wrestling talk from these males here, oh God, why are these males talking about wrestling? Let me put this into perspective for women, okay? Professional wrestling, yes, we all know it's fake, even though the injuries are very real, and you know it's scripted and it's a performance. Professional wrestling for men is what soap operas are for women, right? So if you like stuff like and also like vampire shows, right? So like if you liked Vampire Diaries, or you liked, let's even use the movies Twilight, or you liked, I don't know what are soap operas, or you like telenovelas. Let's, for the Hispanic female watchers out there, right? If you like telenovelas, or you liked, you know, One Tree Hill, or what was there? There was Dawson's Creek, or you watched, you know, any of those stuff. Wrestling is like a soap opera. Men know it's fake. Most men know. I'm sorry if you came to my channel and you just found out professional wrestling is fake. My apologies, but somebody had to teach you this someday, right? I suppose. But yeah, men know that professional wrestling's fake. We watch it for the entertainment value. We watch it for the athleticism. We watch it for these storylines. I know a lot of people who don't watch it will probably like, well, there's no real cool storylines in that. There's no storylines. There's storylines in this. No, yes, there's a lot of storylines that are told in these things. Sometimes it's very long term booking, sometimes it's not. So the next time your boyfriend, or maybe the guy you're interested in, or the dragon perhaps you're interested in, teehee teehee, or maybe, you know, somebody that you would like to get closer to and stuff, you know, and you're trying to figure out why they watch wrestling. They watch it just for the escapism, not much different than VTubing, right? People watch VTubers for escapism. They watch it for the storylines and a little bit of athleticism and to like turn their brain off. It's like watching any other form of entertainment. It's like playing a video game, right? They know it's not real, but it's still very entertaining, and that's why men watch wrestling, ladies. It's all there really is to it. It's all there really is to it. And there are women who watch wrestling too. I don't know if I should name drop, but I know Kyla from Hollow Live, the ID branch, Indonesian branch, watched wrestling. So, hey, a lot of people watch wrestling. So, it's not just men, right? It's not just men. But for girls that are trying to figure it out, it's male version of soap operas. And we eat that stuff up, right? When there's not really any sports on and there's wrestling on, yeah, a lot of men will switch over to watching wrestling. Anyway, guys, that is all the time that I have for today. I'm going to go over schedule, what's left on the schedule right now. Saturday morning, cozy stream, 9 a.m. I'm going to be playing Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. If somehow, I don't know how I'm going to be able to work it in. If I could fit the League of Legends stream somewhere in, either that Sunday, or somehow we're able to fit it on Friday, I'll try to do it. I don't know. It's kind of difficult to do that. We'll figure it out. If I can't throw it in, that League of Legends, I promise you, this week will be the beginning of next week. Promise. I will write it in blood. I have blood wings that I probably should have thrown on here. And look, I'm gonna throw the blood wings on right now. Right? Okay, look. They're going on right now, guys. See? These wings are made from the blood of my enemies. You can't see it, but I'm writing this in blood right now. I'm moving on these wings around. And I gotta use my hands. That's what my wings are for right now. See, I'm writing it. Yeah. If we don't get to fit the league this week, we will play League of Legends on next Tuesday then. If I can fit it in now, well, not right now. If I can fit it in sometime in between stuff, and I work scheduling-wise, we'll try to do what we can do to get that to happen. But again, you know, it's schedules. They change on the fly to be determined. I really wanted to get some Diablo 3 in because there was some interest on old viewers wanting to see a Diablo 3. You gotta give people what they want, right? Anyway, with that being said, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for chatting with me. Thank you for lurking. Not with me, but thank you for lurking. I do greatly appreciate it. And most importantly, I appreciate you.